Good morning, YouTube, and today we have for you an Exodia deck profile. This is one of those decks that everyone kind of has tried to pick up at one point in time or another, and it's just so fun to just play every now and then and pick up, but realistically it's not something you're going to be taking to a competitive event, but it still has some nice little ways, and I've tried to optimize it to the best of what my play style is. Starting off, we run a playset, or excuse me, a copy of each of the Exodia pieces themselves. Ultra rares for the legs because he missed leg day. Never skip leg day, people. Realistically, this is just a 2 cent statement. If this were to be bumped up to any one of these, like to 2 or 3, I couldn't really imagine anyone wanting to play more than one because it's just so bricky in the deck, especially nowadays. Having so many bricks in your hand hurts the deck. Let me know if there would be a reason why you would play more than the one of each. I'd like to know. Next, we run a place of Sangan and one of which the Black Forest. These are your tutors. These search for everything in the deck. It's just absolutely wonderful. Plus, they help you have the existence of an extra deck. There shouldn't be too much reasoning as to why we need those. Next, run a playset of Battle Fader. This deck really needs to have some way to stall in order to be able to draw for the Exodia pieces because it's just not as guaranteed, especially in this particular build. So we need that. Plus, it's level 1 and a dark, and that'll come in handy and play here in a moment. Next, run a playset Paw of Duality. This is probably the best engine in the deck that searches whatever you need. You can search the Exodia piece. You can search for just whatever you need, and any of these trapland that we're about to get into here in a little bit. Lure of Darkness. Yes, you do only have 7 targets that you would want to banish, the Sangan, the Witch, and then the Battle Faders, but the Exodia pieces themselves are also dark, and there are some pitches where you're going to have to banish them, and the question is how do you get around that? Well, you use one Pot of Acquisitiveness. Yes, this does require you to have to use all 3 of your lures, or some other means of banishing, like let's say your opponent has drops a D-barrier or a Dimensional Fissure on you, rather, and then you banish your stuff. This is here just to remedy that. You can easily take this out. If that is the case, I just like to have the ability to play around in dire situations like that. So we run one Pot of Acquisitiveness. Another hot take, 1 Pot of Prosperity. The problem is it prevents you from drawing, which is what this deck is essential for, but does not prevent you from searching. So you can still activate Pot of Duality, you can still search with your Sangan, and you can go with all your traps, because this is more of a heavy trap build than it is anything else. Running Upper Spells, 1 Upstart Goblin, 1 day apiece. 1 day apiece is probably the best card in the deck. Guarantees you a turn, gets you a card. Upstart Goblin is more handy than what you might think, but we'll get that into here when we ever get to the Hope for Escape and gift card package. Hope for Escape, for those of you who don't know, this became really popular a little while back. Somebody took it to nationals. It has to be at least 5 or 6 years ago, where they played I think it was the Dragon Duelist, played Hope for Escape, and they ended up making it very far. What Hope for Escape does is if your life points are at least 1,000 less than your opponent, i.e. Upstart Goblin, you pay 1,000 and you draw a card for each 2,000 points of difference it is. So if you're only able to activate in the first place, you're going to be drawing at least 1 card. Gift card gives your opponents 3,000 life points just straight off the bat. No one's ever going to be negating this, so you're almost going to guarantee yourself drawing 2 cards off of a Hope for Escape. And then it just stacks up after a while, and eventually it could get to the point where you're almost worrying about decking yourself out because you're drawing so many cards off of Hope for Escape. So it's just super fun, and honestly, I think the best way to draw through your entire deck. Next, we run a playset of Reckless Greed, draw 2 cards. It's stackable. If you activate 2 in 1 turn, then you don't have to worry about skipping your next 4 draw phases, just the next 2. 2 Jar of Greeds. I was trying to think of something to take out for Prosperity, and I took out one of the Jar of Greeds just because it's a singular 1 draw card. It's slow, but it's kind of necessary for this ability to search your deck and the ability to have another name of a card to activate in chain, such as for your accumulated fortune. Now, it's super easy to bump up your chain links in this deck, or just nowadays in general. So it's easy to get up there. We only play 2 because it can't stack on top of each other, and you can't have multiple cards within the same chain. So we only run the 2 of those. Next, run a playset of Waboku, 1 Threatening Roar, and 1 Swift Scap Iron Scarecrow. Wabokus are in here just because you can activate them at any point in time, which is fantastic. You can just activate 2 of them per turn if that's what you really need to do, if you're trying to get some weird chain business going on, if somebody negates it. Threatening Roar just prevents the battle phase as a whole, which you could decide to run instead of another one of these, but the fact that this Threatening Roar can't be activated in your turn. Scrap Iron Scarecrow is a little bit of an iffy tech. I think in a vacuum, it's definitely a little bit nicer because you can just continuously, like if you're down to a simplified game state, you can just continuously Scap Iron Scarecrow, let the attack go through that you want to go through, and progress from there. You can easily take this out for something else, but I like it in there. It's treated me well whenever I play this deck. Next, we run a playset, Salomon Great Almirage. This is probably the most essential card in your extra deck. It does require 1,000 or less attack, so it only works off the Exodia piece of Sangan and Battle Fader. But the fact is that it's an existing piece. It has 0 attack, so sometimes you'll want to be able to attack your opponent so that you take as much damage so you can get your Hope for Escapes to have as much value, because your life points don't matter as much as your opponent's. 1 Claire and Rushka, because this is the only way to summon off of Witch of the Black Forest and be able to plus off of that just generically by itself. Now, for the sake of the Battle Faders, we run 2 Link Krabos and 1 Relinquished Anima. These are more so for just stalling. Realistically, you don't need a place of Link Krabo. I like to have more options, like you can cheekily steal a Heat Soul or something off of with this. Realistically, the reason why you run so many copies of some of these cards is because you play the Prosperity and there's enough duplicates in this extra deck that you can keep everything, at least 1 copy, in your extra deck. Next, run the playset of Wee Witch's Apprentice and 1 Dark, the Dark Charmer. Wee Witches can add from your graveyard. Dark can add from your deck if they're destroyed. The nice part about Dark is that you can link off your Almirage as well, so it gives you more options in that aspect, but they're both, you know, they're not going to be something that you go for a lot, but they exist because the condition does arise. And rounding up our extra deck, we have what's called the Merry Christmas package, that if you're forced to send something to your graveyard, you have the ability to go. And that is going to wrap up my version of Exodia. Honestly, this is such a fun deck, and there's so many different builds that you can find outside in the world. This is the one I've just had the most fun with because it gives you options and the ability to play around a lot of situations that would normally just be hopeless, as they say. Let me know what changes you would make. I've seen, again, there's so many fun builds that you can find out there. Thanks for watching and hope you have a great day.